Welcome to the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc and Sean Castles, coming to you from Radio Waves Studios in New York City. Now, let's kick off the show.
Well, hi again, everybody. I am indeed Marc Sean Castles alongside, and we are continuing our visit to Wrexham. We welcome you to Wrexham, and this is episode 3 of our Wrexham trilogy. We're thrilled to be joined by another of their phenomenal editors, Steve Welch from the LA area. Hi, Steve.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for bringing me on today.
Steve, thanks for joining us here. We're just going to dive right in. Want to learn a little bit about yourself? How'd you get into filmmaking and post-work? How did you become a part of the show?
Oh, well, I'll try to keep it as unboring as possible. I went to college in Boston. I had a work-study job where we checked out all the editing rooms and the camera equipment to the students. And I figured when somebody has a problem, they'd come up and ask us about it. So I figured out how to learn about it. So I did. And I ended up doing some editing for some student projects and such. And then after college, to date myself a little bit, computer editing was just sort of coming around. And I had an opportunity to learn some of that too. And then when I came to LA, I had about 2 weeks of experience on the Avid, the computer editing system we use. So I started getting hired because that was 2 weeks more than everybody else at the time, and everybody was curious about it. And then I just sort of faked it until I made it. I've been working in the business since, I'm pushing 30 years now, I hate to say. Love to say, hate to say.
And how did you hook up with the Welcome to Wrexham crew?
I was working on a show called Mythic Quest with Rob.
Oh, I love that show.
Rob Mack. Yeah, really fun job, a really good time. And when he bought Wrexham, he very early on hatched the idea to do the documentary. He had a crew out there, and and it was COVID times when that was all happening. So they did quite a lot of shooting. Actually, they did a full season of shooting during COVID. And as people were coming out of COVID, they were sort of starting to put the show together. Rob decided it was just depressing. People didn't want to watch COVID stuff anymore. They wanted to look forward. And so they ended up just went back in, reshot a bunch more. And then I think his original, the crew that did sort of the groundwork of the first season were much more of a standard documentary crew. It wasn't quite hitting where he wanted to be, and he brought it in and showed it to us, myself and Josh Driscoll, who's a producer as well. We were both editors on Mythic Quest. And he said, I actually thought it was quite good. I thought it was quite compelling, but it was much more straight-ahead documentary. And he said, I want this to be fun and different and unique and silly and something that's not about soccer, something you don't need to be a soccer fan for, something that can hook other people. And, it gave us a few other ideas, and Josh and I sat down and started throwing some scenes together and changing some stuff around. And, Rob had some ideas about putting himself in a little bit more. And we kind of just took a fairly straightforward documentary and turned it to the crazy freeform, whatever you might call the show is now. And then since then, a bunch of other really talented editors have come on and run with it and took it even farther than we could have ever imagined. And we've kind of gotten to tag along. Well, Josh is very involved. I get to tag along.
Well, season 5 is now underway and available on demand, and I expect it will have as much success as the previous 4 seasons have. I was told before we talked to you that I had to watch, because I hadn't gotten up to that point yet in my binging, but I was instructed, if not ordered, to watch episode 403, the Disney FC episode, and I could not stop laughing for pretty much a half hour after it ended. Whose idea was it to come up with the Disney movie formula angle? And how difficult or easy was it to get that work done the way you did?
I think Rob has to get credit for that angle. They had been slagged by other teams for, quite a while for being Disney FC, as they say in the show. That was a true thing. That was something that people were coming at them with. And Rob kind of loves that part of sports. I think that's his favorite part of sports is kind of giving and getting to fans of the other teams. I mean, he's from Philadelphia. It comes with him very naturally.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So he just wanted to do a response. And if I remember correctly, I think we had a third episode. I think we had a whole episode almost done. And I think he blew it out of the water kind of the last minute with this idea. We started throwing stuff together, and I can remember that I'm not going to be able to get a direct timetable right, but he had some ideas of like sort of what he wanted to do. And then we kind of we actually did a rough script, us editors, which is not always advisable, but at least we can say, scene where this happens or scene where this happens.
Right.
And started collecting, Disney clips and stuff like that. And as we were putting it together, we had no idea if they were even going to let us do it. We really had no idea. And so we were just kind of winging it, and we would, send scenes to him, and he would sort of rewrite them, and we'd talk about them and rethink them and see what clips we could get. And if we could get a clip, then we'd keep going with that. And if we couldn't, then we'd stop that line. It was just it was a scrambling madness mess. But it was very fun, and I was so pleased at some of the stuff that we were eventually able to put in there. It's just one of those great things about this show that they let us do stuff like that.
It's funny.
It's
You
crazy.
said put in there, and I was thinking get away with, because there are so
Yes.
many through that episode, so many very un-Disney-like things, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's really worth the time to watch. How did you get away with that stuff, and how apprehensive were you all submitting it for approval?
I don't know. I don't know how we got away with it. To be perfectly honest, I think it must be that Rob and Ryan have made them enough money now that they're able to have a sense of humor. Coming from us editors, we're in the trenches, and we don't. We can throw in anything we want until somebody says, "Don't do this."
Right.
But the long running impression that I've always had in the business is that Disney is super litigious and does not like this stuff, and is very protective of their image as far as like any kind of profanity or dirty jokes or any kind of that stuff. But also, we're not really Disney. Disney owns Hulu, but it's not really Disney. And so we kind of found the sweet spot. And I think Rob did a little bit of negotiating behind the scenes. I have to think he did. Whatever the team supervising us decided it was in good humor and good fun, and there it is. And it was kind of great.
It's a fantastic episode. You didn't talk yourself up enough, so I'm going to do it for you. Because looking at your IMDb, you got Malcolm in the Middle, my brother's favorite movie, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. My brother throws quotes at me constantly from that movie. You got Men of a Certain Age. Like, you really have a tremendous resume here.
I love that show.
It's so good.
So good.
How do you transfer over? Those are all scripted, and then suddenly you're doing an unscripted series. Like, what's the difference when you edit those different types?
I can say with no amount of understatement that I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified when Rob asked us to dive into this. It just felt like so much footage and so open-ended and so, it's a different thing. It's really a different thing. And even as far as like parts of the show. So for example, I know you've already talked to Michael Oliver. Michael is phenomenal with game footage. Just he spearheads most of the game action in the episode. And I still haven't learned how to do that like he does it. I feel like I'm not even on this. I'm in the National League and he's in the Premier League as far as cutting, sports goes. And so even different aspects of the show are super difficult. But the townspeople and some of the stuff you're getting is just so compelling and so good that it's telling stories. And eventually you sort of figure out how to do what you normally do, just slightly different. I've done a bunch of stuff that's like, some crazy ad-libbing where people go way off script and do completely random stuff that I have to then sort of figure out how to fit into a story. So I had a little bit of that, but it was a learning process, man. And it was scary. I was uptight.
They're completely different animals. One, you're going in with like, this is the direction we're taking. The next is you got to write it. You are writing the episode, in its way as the editor. You've got so many wonderful storylines to work off of. You've got so many great people. Is there any fan or player or crew member that just gives you golden gems to work off of in the edit suite?
Pub owner Wayne is a fountain of fan. He's so articulate and he's got such a great point of view, and he's just a fun guy. I mean, guy owns a pub. He's a great guy, and he always has good stuff to say. And Mark Griffiths, the announcer, I think is so funny, and he's so good. I don't know why he's not a major British sports broadcaster. I don't understand why he's the local guy for Wrexham. I feel like he's as good as anybody I've ever heard. In fact, I can't even watch. I almost don't want to watch the Wrexham games without his commentary.
Oh, wow.
But there's so many. Paul was always great. Ollie was always great. It's tricky. It's funny with the players. The players are so media trained.
Interesting.
And that's one of the things that I think has changed as we've moved up in the leagues. Mm-hmm. It's like, the National League is such a free-for-all in so many ways. The football is a free-for-all. The system is a free-for-all. And it's just
stadiums are tiny,
the stadiums are tiny. There's no eyeballs on you at all. And so I just think the players feel a little bit more free to just be who they are. And as you kind of move up in the leagues, and as more money comes in and as more eyeballs get on you, everybody starts to get media trained, and everybody starts to, the quotes start to get a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, and a little bit less personality. Everybody's a little bit worried about saying the wrong thing. The townspeople are a bit less so, but I mean, I don't know. They're all great. It's hard for me to single out too many people because everybody's got some.
Have you noticed the fans change? The season has, as each season progresses, Wrexham is more internationally known. Some of the characters now are mini celebrities in their own right. Have you noticed any difference from season 1 to season 4 in how some of the local fans act?
I mean, I feel like there's a bit more awareness. I guess in some sense, it's sort of the same thing. It's the townspeople know they're being watched now too. And so a little bit, there can be some showboating or clamming up, one or the other, depending on who it is. They can also be a little bit either more guarded or try to be a little bit more outrageous to try to get on. But really, it's so minor. With the townspeople, it feels so minor to me. Our show producers have found a bunch of people who just are pretty freaking genuine all the time, and I think they've all been stunned and overwhelmed by the success of the show. And we've got Sean Winters, who we don't see too much anymore, but Sean Winters talking about how he's got people coming up to him off the street, from Argentina asking for his autograph on the street, It's just none of them expected to be thrust into a situation like that. But in general, they're just, I don't know, somehow they've maintained their grounding by and large.
See, it ruins my follow-up because I want to know, not that you would name names, but I want to know if there's anybody who's gotten such a big head that you don't want to see them on the screen anymore. It sounds like the answer is no.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, there have been some things with fans. I can't go too far into detail. They were asked to do things, and they actually doesn't even really have to do with our show. It's just fan stuff, Don't light the smoke torch in the stands. And they go and light the smoke torch in the stands, or something like that. And so we're like, now we can't talk to you anymore.
What's the wildest fan thing you've seen, or the funniest chant, whether Wrexham fans or other teams' fans? What's the most inappropriate or funniest thing you've seen from the fans?
British fans are so much funnier, and I wish I could remember specifically what they were. The only one that springs to my mind is I'm sure it's not even nearly the funniest one that we've heard, but Ryan Reynolds, "You Bought the Wrong Team" was a classic. And so fast. I mean, literally they were doing that the very first game those guys ever attended. The slagging, the picking on each other just starts instantly over there. And they're so creative with all their chants. It's a little bit, I'm actually a huge football fan, and I follow LAFC, which is known for having one of the best fan bases in MLS. Oh, yeah. And they're great. And they sing, they sing all game and they do all that stuff. But all the songs are familiar. They're all kind of the same songs every game. Man, British fans, they make this stuff up, and they make up insults, and they make up these chants, and somehow game to game they're different, and somehow game to game all the fans know them. And I don't understand how it happens. It's just this much different, funnier culture.
Steve, I was going to ask you about being a fan of soccer. You're a native Oregonian, you were telling us off the air. So, how big a soccer fan were you? How much more of a soccer fan are you now? Or has it gone the other way where because it's work, you can't enjoy it as much?
No, I've been a soccer fan my whole life. I played all the way through high school. I played 2 years in college. My buddy and I had season tickets to MLS games for 25 years until I moved too far out of LA to make it worth, it got a little expensive. But I've been a huge football fan. In fact, I used to sit in the edit bay with Rob when he would talk about, why do you like this game? What is the deal with this game? I find it so boring. Like, he did not get soccer, didn't care about soccer, didn't have any, he was befuddled by the whole game. And I used to tell him, I was like, it's like any other sport. You get into it and it hooks you and you're gone. And he didn't really believe me until the whole story that Humphrey tells, which is the whole promotion relegation thing hooked him. And now he's a soccer fan. And, I've never got the I told you so moment with him.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So you were there. What was the moment that flipped the switch on him?
It really was about promotion relegation. He just thought that was so cool. He was like, we could bring a pub team to the Premier League. He was just fascinated by that, just endlessly fascinated by that. And when it kind of came up to be a possibility, somehow he just got it in his head and he was like, I'm going to do it. And he told us about it. And I was like, that's fantastic. That's phenomenal. I think that's amazing. It is going to be so much harder than you think it is. And that's the part where I've had to eat my words. I was like, there's no way in heck that you'll be lucky to be promoted in 10 years. And if you do get promoted, you'll be lucky to get promoted again in another 10 years.
Yeah, it really is. It's incredible, isn't it? How long did it take from the germination of this idea to when he got in touch with Ryan and started the whole process looking into buying the club?
You're asking about COVID years, which all blend together into one long thing. It was sometime just before, I think it was the first season of Mythic Quest that the idea first kind of hatched. And they looked around for a while. They looked around at teams kind of all over the world. Oh, I think they started in Europe. Yeah. But my memory is that they started in Europe. They looked at Italian teams. They looked at some Spanish teams. They looked at some English teams. They were just, doing their due diligence and looking for a good buy. But it happened fairly quickly. I mean, we were on season 2 of Mythic Quest, I want to say. And then COVID hit and they were sort of in the process of, I guess that was all happening and all being bought. Boy, I mean, I'm botching the timeline, I'm sure. It was fast. Here's my answer. It was fast.
I'm just fascinated by the fact that they hadn't met each other in person and only knew each other through social media, and this whole collaboration came together virtually.
I was also incredibly fascinated by that, yes. I almost didn't believe him.
Frankly, that's a story in itself.
Yeah.
You could get a whole other series out of it.
And having to marry spreadsheets and just the amount of money, it's a lot. It's impressive.
Yeah. And it's crazy that it's worked out as well as it has. It's absolutely, it's rarer than lightning in a bottle, this whole thing, I think. It's crazy.
You guys have made it its own institution that initially everyone was like, let's see what happens here, to just like you said, holy crap, they've won 3 in a row and really pulling it out. I'm going to switch tacks here because in Disney FC, there's another thing that you guys pointed out. I really enjoyed the story arc of the older players like Mark Howard and Stephen Fletcher, slightly out of their prime men like Mark and I. How did that storyline come together? How did you guys pull that one together? It feels really organic.
I mean, I guess it's something that we've sort of always talked about, and it's something, well, there's a whole fascinating thing about the process of moving up through the leagues, which is that the players who got you to one level are now disposable. And that's a little bit of a harsh way to say it, but you need some of these players. Ben Foster, it could be another guy that you talk about in something like that. You need these players who have this experience and this class, and they're only coming to you because they can't quite perform at the level they're used to anymore. But it catches all of us. And some of these guys, the guys who are coming from the Premier League, Ben Foster, he's set for life. Mark Howard, he's in a different boat. You know, they've done okay and it's been great and they've lived their dream and they've been paid okay, but they're not set for life. So it's always been a sort of a compelling aspect of sports for us. And quite frankly, we're all like you, past our prime. Thank God.
Again,
thank God we have something that's not going to, thank God that's,
Pickleball
they say,
champion, I got it.
Yeah. They say this business is for young people, and so far they haven't aged us out, but it's always in the back of my mind too. I'm like, oh geez, I used to be the young kid. Now I'm the old guy. It's something that's kind of always been on our mind. So it was something that we had always wanted to talk about and to investigate. And it's kind of funny to me that it ended up fitting into that episode as well, because Disney's for kids. It's just a funny dichotomy and that wasn't really a planned thing that I remember.
It's great. It's a really wonderful comeback, and just like that, it just happened at that time. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that storyline. What scene or story arc kind of edited itself for you that you got the footage, you're like, oh, this makes sense. I'm just going with it.
I think, I don't want to say, there hasn't been a whole lot that's come really easy on the show, because it's, at least for me anyway, it's just a whole new way of thinking. But the Gressford episode came together really well without too much manipulation on my part. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
The segments that they did for it were strong. They came out kind of clear. The point was clear. The storyline was clear. I mean, part of, maybe that has to do with the fact that, in an episode about a mining disaster, you're not trying to work in a bunch of wacky. So, you have a fairly clear line through.
There are some shows that would try that, though.
Possibly there are. But one of the miracles of Wrexham is that really for the first 2 episodes, just the story of the season kind of told itself in a great way. I mean, to lose on the last day, to lose out of promotion on the last day, like you can't write how the first 2 seasons, you can't write how they laid out just from a football standpoint. Like you wouldn't believe it. It's too perfect.
The season 1 ending is wonderful and a gut punch at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you just, especially if you're coming back to it from hearing about it, because you just assume that they've been going up. So it didn't happen just like that.
Well, Rob even told me this is the dichotomy in Rob's personality. Before they played that game, he was like, I really want to win this game. But if we lose, it's better for the documentary. And I was like, you're right. It kind of is.
It gets us a new season there.
Yeah.
What was the toughest storyline that ended up on the cutting room floor? Like, what was a story arc that you're like, God, this is awesome, but it just doesn't work in this episode, so it's just going to the floor?
When we have an awesome storyline, we find a place to put it. It may not go where we thought it was going to initially go, but we eventually find a place for it. There's bits. There's a lot of bits. There's some stuff that I wish we could have flushed out more. I don't have a too specific an example, but actually I do. Some of the stuff for the women's team, the life of a women's professional sports player at the level that they're at is so different from the men's. And we talked at the beginning about how like the men's experience, professional football experience in the National League is nowhere near what it's like in the Premier League. Well, the women's is on that level, but even it's that same kind of gap. And we've had these episodes where we've followed them around a little bit more in their real lives. I mean, Rosie Hughes is a prison guard. We've had episodes where we followed around other players in their daily lives, and we ultimately have always pared it down. But there's always tidbits in there that I'm like, oh, man. I mean,
why couldn't we use that line?
When you're young, you can handle it. Yeah. When you're young, you can handle some of this stuff. But I would just sit there and go, oh my God, the dedication, the commitment, I would love to spend more time on some of that stuff. And there, all throughout the show, there's a lot of that. But if there's a great storyline, we find a way to put it in.
You guys have done a great job following the Women's League starting season 2. And by season 4, we know who they are. Mm-hmm. We see them regularly. So you guys have done a really great job giving us a deep insight into them and their league, which is really nice.
It's a great story. I mean, it's just a great story. And that's what the documentary is about. I mean, it's about soccer, but it's really about these stories. And so it really lends itself to that. I find them more compelling than the men sometimes.
You're giving your own little sports anthropology here.
You
guys are showing what fans are like and how important they are to their town and how that builds into the town's culture. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. It's what we love. It was part of Rob's clear vision that I think, and I don't remember him articulating this, but he was like, that's what sports is. It's stories, it's memories, it's not always just about the game. It's about what's happening around the game and what's happening in your life outside of it. And that was really that was something we knew that the documentary would be more appealing to people if that's what it was.
It's interesting. I wonder how his perspective would have been different if his Eagles had not won a Super Bowl a couple of years before you all got involved in this.
I don't know. He's always been a huge sports fan. And I think he's always been aware that sports are supposed to be fun. It's something you're supposed to do for fun. And even as much as Philadelphia fans have a reputation for being pretty hardcore and
No, you can say it. Insane.
insane, and you can get mad and you can get frustrated and you can all this stuff. I think he always held on to this memory that, or this impression that the reason sports exist is because it's fun.
Yeah.
So let's have fun. Yeah, we want to tell a documentary, but let's have fun. It's just about sports. Let's have fun with how we tell the stories, and let's tell some good stories.
Yeah, to that end, what's your favorite part about being part of all this?
For me, I've really loved working with such a big team. It's a really different workflow than what we're used to. In most of the shows I work on, you have your assigned episodes and you just work on those. And every now and then there's some crossover. But on Wrexham, it's just a big old dog pile on every episode. Like, you take this part, you take this part, you take this part. Mike usually heads up the game footage, but we all tap in after he's got the basic structure and help out with audience reactions or switching camera angles here and there, and he dives onto package work sometimes. But really, it's like one of us will do a framework of a package of a segment, and then it'll get passed off to somebody else and they'll put their own spin on it, trying to respect your sort of initial idea, but putting their own spin on it and helping it through. And everybody is so collaborative and so cool and so dedicated to just like, we know we're sitting on something good here and everybody just wants it to be good. And so in a sort of really smooth, egoless way, it's just been really fun to be a part of this group.
One thing we haven't talked about in this trilogy at all of Wrexham episodes is how great the graphics work is. Because you guys use it to highlight a lot of comedic premises, and it's who does? Do you guys each do the graphics? Is there a dedicated graphics person? Because they're very funny.
We have a dedicated graphics person. Man, why am I terrible with names? Why is that? We have a dedicated graphics person. We conceptualize them. So all the little asides and all the little scribbled, explain this is this, and the arrows and all that kind of stuff.
How many F words the Parkinson says,
Yes, all those things. Those are definitely built into the cut, but then our wonderful graphics team takes them and makes them better. I mean, it really started with like trying to explain the football pyramid to an American audience. We were like, it's so confusing. It can be with no background in any of that kind of stuff. The game is just very confusing. Explaining offsides, explaining all that stuff. So we knew early on that we needed to have a little bit more visual representation of, otherwise it's just words, and people don't get it. So it solves a lot of problems for us. It helps you track the season, and it lets us throw a few jokes in there. I like one of my favorite was the whole runner of American word.
Yes, British, American, and then
British,
the Welsh.
Yeah,
yes,
I like that.
yes, British, American, Welsh. Yeah, that was always a good runner.
That's a deep font to dive into because there's so many. It's not just lift and torch. There's so many more words. I love that part.
Yes.
It was the again. I didn't know what again was.
Again.
Until you guys used it for Steve Harvey.
It's funny, you hear again,
Again
and my mind immediately went to like a Texas twang. So I was right, but I got there, if I had to show my work, it's a little convoluted how I got there, but I got there.
Yes. I think some of that comes from Humphrey too. I think that's a maybe a specific Humphreyism, but Wayne Jones has a ton of words that we're like, what does he mean by that? That seems
What's the toughest accent you've had to deal with?
I think it's Paul Mullen. He has that really Liverpool Scousey accent, really hard to follow sometimes, and he talks very fast.
Do you guys bring someone in to be like, what did Paul say here? Do you guys like have a British interpreter?
Google Translate is no match for these people.
No, we do. Well, there's some people on the ground over there who have the accent, who can speak it. And then Humphrey sometimes has to interpret for us. But yeah, usually it's people who are on the ground in Wales who have to figure that stuff out for us.
As a soccer fan, because you've been following for a long time, what can you say is a little different compared to LAFC fans, to Liverpool fans? How are Wrexham fans just a little bit different from the other fan bases?
I actually suspect that there's a lot of sort of smaller market teams that have fan bases that are a little bit similar to Wrexham. But it is definitely the case that it's a smaller town. It's always been a smaller brand. It's always been, and it's hard to an American audience, it's hard to convey what this is because, it's one thing to be, for example, a Philadelphia Eagles fan. They're a huge team. Or a Dallas Cowboys fan. They're a huge team, and you get why the city sort of revolves around these teams, Green Bay Packers or something like that. Wrexham is a tiny team playing in the lower leagues of this, giant pyramid. And in fact, even in Wrexham, people have, they love Wrexham, but they also have their Premier League team. They follow Liverpool or they follow Arsenal or they follow something else like that. But yet the town still revolves around this much smaller entity. And the idea that the fans would put up $100,000 in 24 hours to save their team, I don't think Americans can really grasp what
No. There's minor league baseball? There's nothing
No,
close.
even that though.
Yeah.
It's like Chico's bail bonds playing the Yankees for a spot in the World Series.
Right. And you're like, if they're going under, you're like, well, rich guy somewhere didn't want to pay for it. I'm not going to pay. I don't know. It's just to have a team like that's that small representing so much of the identity of your town. And I do think, having not experienced a lot of other towns other than Wrexham, their fans on a smaller level, I would suspect that there is actually kind of a similarity across the country for fans of these smaller teams. But I don't know, the Wrexham folks are just so much fun. They're just so much fun.
Did you notice any differences, between the away crowd or the home crowd? Have you noticed any difference in vibes between the different stadiums?
Yeah, a little bit. The footage that comes to us probably doesn't show it that much. It's definitely, you definitely have a target on your back now when you're Wrexham, for sure. And they have for a couple of years, It's definitely, and I think people don't factor that in enough for how successful Wrexham was this season particularly. Everyone wants to beat them now.
And they know they're going to be on TV. Like, absolutely. You're going to bring your A game.
Exactly. They know they're going to be on TV. Everyone wants to beat them. There's definitely, maybe a few more finger flips. The camera crews, I know the camera crews, when they go to away games, they get a little bit of shit or maybe a lot of shit. Yeah, I would say, I wouldn't go as far as to say hostile because I do think football has always been fairly intense in England.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's that much more hostile, but they definitely have a target on their back.
No, and what's interesting, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this boat, but having just completed season 4, and obviously now season 5 is underway and available on Hulu, I perked up immediately when I heard, not that I wasn't paying attention anyway, but I was even more locked in when I heard here's Wrexham against Lincoln City, knowing what Lincoln City has gone through this season, and now having jumped on their bandwagon a little bit because they are moving up to a level they haven't been in almost 70 years. And, we're looking for stories just like you look for stories. To me, that's fascinating. And the fact that Wrexham played this team and they're both now, reaching heights of popularity and success that they've never experienced before, or at least in modern times. That, to me, makes this all much more even worth the journey.
Right. Well, we did that whole episode on Dorking Wanderers, which was great. I mean, their coach is, camera ready.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Oliver is still a minority owner of Dorking
Yes,
Wanderers.
he hit on that.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
I think it's really easy to get bought into. Everybody loves an underdog, and these teams are all underdogs, and it's fun to see them get up, and obviously it changes once you're not an underdog anymore. But even still, I think Wrexham still got some underdog cred to burn.
Oh, sure. And until you get to the Premier League, you're going to still be in that boat.
And maybe stay there for a couple of years, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything that you didn't expect? Like something that's just like, did the fans just do that? That was just totally different from what you expect with an American sports. Like, wait, the fans are doing what?
God, not that I can think of.
That's
Not that I
right.
can think of. I've been following English Premier League and Championship and stuff like that for a while. I wasn't surprised by it.
Are you watching it from a different perspective now, though? Like, you can watch just the game, but obviously your job with Welcome to Wrexham is to look beyond the game. So are you watching, when you sit down to watch an EPL match, are you looking at it through a different lens?
You know what's funny? One thing that I've really noticed as far as how the game is played is that, I kind of went in with this, knowing that the Premier League is the best league in the world. So they say a lot of the best players, highly competitive, all that
The
kind of stuff.
deepest, at least. It's
Yeah.
a tremendous league.
The lower leagues are kind of more fun in a way because they're so crazy. I mean, those like 6-5 games in the first couple seasons, I mean, you just don't see stuff like that. And I know the football's not technically as good, but it's way more dramatic in a lot of ways, It's just, and so sometimes, and I'm not going to say it's taken any of the fun out of the game. I still love the game. But there are some times when I'm watching Premier League games where I'm like, somebody needs to get crazy in this game. Like somebody needs to just do something just bonkers. You would just see that at the lower levels. There's a little bit different mentality and a different skill level, quite frankly. But yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I notice the most when I watch soccer now after working on the show.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was doing the play-by-play for St. Francis College in Brooklyn, we had a young lady who I called the Tasmanian Devil because every time she went on the field, something happened. And one of the last matches where she came off the bench, she literally got whistled in and did a sprint to the far corner and knocked somebody down. That was her goal. And immediately, 5 seconds in, she's got a yellow card. And I had warned the audience, keep an eye out for what Avery's about to do. And Avery went full tilt like the Tasmanian Devil and just bumped somebody off the ball. And literally 5 seconds in, she got a yellow card. And I said, that's Avery.
That's fantastic.
But that's a great story. And if you know it's coming, it makes it even better.
Yes, exactly. Or just people you don't know what's coming. You just have no idea how people are going to respond in some situations. The lower leagues can be just crazy. They can just be bonkers.
Have you seen anything in all the game footage? I know you're not handling all the games, but when you're looking through, like, how did this person do this athletic feat? Like Saquon Barkley reverse hurdling someone. Have you seen anything where, like, that shouldn't be physically possible?
There have been some sick moves. I still feel like at his level, some of the goals Paul scored, just even making contact with the ball sometimes.
They defy physics.
I can't pull up a specific example, but yeah, there's been some great football, some really, really fun stuff to watch.
So, Steve, we are May 21st as this airs. Emmy nomination season is open, and I know you guys have submitted episode 408. I'm just curious to know, I'm sure Sean is too, what are your expectations, your hopes, your aspirations for an Emmy nomination and another win for you guys?
I try not to expect anything. It's better not to. It's been great. I mean, it's been wonderful that the show has gotten so much recognition. I hope people like the show. And if they recognize it, that's awesome. I mean, the Emmys have been very fun to go to. It's been good. Quite frankly, we all work remotely. So we're talking on Slack and Zoom calls and stuff like that. So to get to be in the same room with each other is really a treat.
There's no production meetings where, like, hey, we're going to meet at such and such bar. We're gonna have a pre-pro out in this city. Anything like that? Or?
No, and quite frankly, we're not all in LA. There's one guy in Kentucky. There's someone's in Texas. There's people all over the place. And so we have Zoom meetings 3 times a week. And sometimes they can be quite long so that everybody sort of knows where each show is at in process. But yeah, I think we did a viewing party at the end of the first season, or maybe even the start of the second season. And that was the first time I'd met everybody in person. We almost never see each other. We're almost never in the same room.
That's crazy with modern technology, how that happens.
It is very strange. And it's really weird because it's pretty intensive, and I do feel like I know them sort of.
Yeah, you guys are chatting and spilling everything to each other constantly. I'm sure you guys are bouncing ideas off each other a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's very weird to meet somebody you've worked so intensely with, but never actually laid eyes on.
Well, listen, Steve Welch, we really appreciate the time. I want to thank you a ton for joining us. This has been a blast.
It's been fun. Thank you, guys.
And congratulations on getting renewed for 3 more seasons.
Yahoo!
I know we'll be watching, and 3 seasons is a lot to get renewed for.
It is. It's very exciting. It's especially since we weren't sure we were going to get 5 at one point. So to get 3 at this point is fantastic.
Tremendous stuff. And again, watch Welcome to Wrexham on Hulu. Want to thank Steve. Want to thank Mike Oliver. Want to thank Jenny Cromwell. We've got to thank Corey Stillman, who helped put this whole thing together. And of course, we want to thank our audience because they're still with us. Episode 27 down, and we continue on.
For Marc and Sean, I'm Sean Castles. Go out there and find your football family, guys.
This has been the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc and Sean Castles. Our executive producer is Sue Zizza. Marc and Sean Castles are co-producers. David Shin is our master engineer. Assistant producer Avery Gehrig, and I'm Alicia Antwine. To be a guest on the Ultra World Podcast or learn all about sponsorship opportunities, send an email to ultraworldpod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the show on all the social media platforms at Ultra World Pod. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved, Ultra World Podcast, LLC.